Well, welcome. It's a little lethargic in here. It might be because of us, honestly. I haven't played the bass in years, so, yeah, it just feels a little, I don't know, lethargic. Do you know what that word means? It's like I want everyone to stand up and stretch or do something, hey? It's just kind of quiet. Maybe the sound wasn't quite right, Yeah. I was going to say, even if the sound's not right, come on, they didn't have much sound equipment back in the day, hey? And they still found a way to praise. Come on. They didn't have all this, but they still found a way to praise and worship. All right, just an encouragement. All right, part 3, here we go. How many of you have been here for every part of the series the last 2 weeks, and this is the third one, all about church? How many of you haven't? No, don't put up your hand, I'm kidding. All right, but a couple weeks ago, I launched the series all about church and said, the grit behind the... I'll try that again. It was all about the grit behind the glitz. And I said between the success and the glitz that you see in people, there's often much unnoticed and hidden grit. And that principle, actually, we've been talking about in groups, and you can just find that principle everywhere in life. Behind a successful relationship is probably a whole lot of grit they've worked through. Behind a successful business is a whole lot of grit they've worked through. And the importance of the grit is that the only time you can mature or develop or grow up is in the grit. And I said, if you end up with the glitz or success and you haven't put in the grit, you get immature adult-looking kids. So that was 2 weeks ago. Last week, what? Commitment, yes, was about the difference between attending and engagement. And unfortunately, I tried to do a dance that now has generated a lot of interest and comments from all across the board. Some most good, some not good, but the main premise was that even Beyonce in all her worldliness or not understanding this, understood the importance that if you want to commit to something, if you like something, if you really want to grow and develop in whatever that relationship is, at some point, if you like it, you need to put a ring on it. And we had ring pops. Again, with some measure of success and some not some success on the feedback I got on that one. But we gave away ring pops. We have some extras here. If you missed putting a ring on it last week, we can hand them out this week again. So the idea of getting engaged, and what does it mean to get engaged in a church and not just attend? And then today we're doing part 3, and honestly I struggled a bit doing this because I'm always aware we have new people with us who's been here a first time, a second time, a third time, and this applies to you, but the heart of this is for maybe those who consider City Center their church, but there's an encouragement in it for you. But I struggled with doing it on a Sunday. But in this unique time of transition, I thought this was a great time, and Pastor Jim a few weeks ago was kind of sharing on this, and he said, and Pastor Derek, you might want to minister on this, and I thought, okay, because I was kind of like, I don't know if I should, and so this is a very informational, almost formulaic thing. I have a handout that everyone's going to get. It's not quite yet. We'll do it in a few seconds here. And it's walking through some of the steps of what it's like to fit into a church, what that means. And so those of you who like formulas and structure and rules, anybody, you want to know the rules, you want to follow them, please, even though this has some specific points, don't take this as a legal, 10 commandments, 613 Levitical laws, and every point and every nuance must fall within here. I know some of you are going to want to do that. You're going to pull towards that. Think of it as a structure and framework that will be adjusting as we go and develop. Okay? But it's a way to find yourself. It's a way for me to find out where you think you fit within a church. And so it kind of lays the framework for that. All right? You good? We good? Is everyone good? Here we go. How many of you have seen one of these before? I know you have, Kristen. Who's worn one of these before? Who's worn one of these in the last year? You trendy people, you. Come on, Elaine, I didn't know. Look at that. So this is called a fanny pack, right? I remember having one of these when I was probably like late 80s, early 90s. It had to, because it's when we went to Disneyland. When did we go to Disneyland? Do you remember? Early 90s. Okay, so I was 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. And I remember I had a jean fanny pack. And I had the big glasses, the oversized. Some of you are wearing them right now. I guess they're back in style. The big oversized glasses, the baggy white shirt with chip and pepper on it or something like that. And tighter jean shorts with the fanny pack. And if you're wearing that fanny pack, you felt like Mary Poppins, honestly, because you could just pull anything out of there and you had every little trinket inside that thing. And you were pretty cool. Well, we thought we were cool. But I don't know if it was a fashion crisis or something like that, but about a year ago, I saw that they were making a comeback, and I thought, I should get one of those again. And for several months, I was looking for the right one. Yes, I'm admitting today, embarrassingly so, I looked for several months for a nice fanny pack. And so I got it, and I didn't test it with my mic pack in behind here, so hopefully I can wear it. But yes, so I put it on. I've worn it once. I think Kristen remembers. It was at Carter's birthday party bowling. And I wore it once, and it sat here. And I don't know what it was, but when I look at myself in the mirror, the extra weight of glory that I now have, the girth around me, I don't remember it quite sitting like this when I was younger. And so maybe the pictures I had and that, I was kind of like, does it go here? Maybe if I put it here, it just kind of makes this stick out more, honestly. So I couldn't really find where I wanted it to fit. There. I'm guessing that it goes back there. That's where it started, and that's where the term fanny pack comes from, probably, hey? Right? And so I was kind of looking into it, and I realized, there's a lot of ways for your fanny pack to fit. It could be on the side, it can be on the front, it can be at the back, but the cool, real hip people, right? They kind of do the front. It goes here like this, right? You wear it kind of in front as a satchel, or I don't know. Again, I'm not sure if I really like that or what I would do with that. And I think some are now doing this in the back. But what I learned is, and when I was looking, there was lots of fannies, lots of fanny packs of all types, all shapes, all sizes, all colors, big, small, wide, tiny, bright, tame. And no matter what, I realized this, that no matter what kind of fanny pack you have, if you brighter, this or that, there's a place that you could probably, if you go enough, that you could find your fanny pack and kind of fit. And so I need to tell this today that maybe there's somebody here who's been wondering about their fanny pack and where their fanny pack fits. Where did this come from? The store. My other fanny came from the Lord. Why do I think of Cotton Eye Joe? Where to come from, where to go? Oh my goodness. So anyways, if you feel like maybe in this season you're to this, you're to that, I've done this, I've done that, I don't know how I fit into this or into that. No matter your shape, no matter your style, no matter your size, no matter your design, I want you to know today, listen, there is a place your fanny fits. Your fanny fits, no matter the shape, no matter the size. There is a place your fanny fits here. That is the most compliments I've gotten on my fanny in a while. There is a place your fanny fits here. 1 Corinthians 12:18 in the Amplified. We read it twice last week out of another translation. I'm going to read it from this week as we launch off. But now, as things really are, God has placed and arranged the parts in the body, each one of them, just as he willed and saw fit. Just as he willed and saw fit. He not only saw fit to put you in here, but he saw it fit. And then I like this slide. It says, with the best balance of function. The best balance of function. I want to tell you today, if you're wondering kind of about church and everything like that, if you're watching online and you're new with us, I want to let you know that there's a place your fanny fits that facilitates the best function. I'm going to say that again. There's a place your fanny fits that facilitates the best function. And whether it's front, whether it's back, whether it's hip, whether it's, there's a place that facilitates the best function. There's a church your fanny fits that facilitates the best equipping. Did you know that? There's a church that your fanny can fit that facilitates the best equipping for you, for your calling, for your giftings, for your design, for your purpose. God has fit your fanny into a church body. He said fanny. It's like, right, the giggles. Fanny-pack. And so we've been using the analogy last week, and you'll hear Pastor Jim use it a lot, about the church being a body. But we're going to shift into one other thing that is referenced lots about the church, and it's this idea of a house. Anyone ever heard it kind of referenced the house? We sang about it today. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. It's the house of the Lord. It's the house of the Lord. And so just like there's specific parts in the body, there's this analogy of house. Luke says this, writes this about Jesus. Jesus is coming up to the temple, the place where people prayed and worshiped, and it's been turned into like an exchange of probably people bringing tithes, and people are extorting and making profit on others, and he hears this is going on in the church, and he says this, and Luke is writing about this in Luke 19:46. This is Jesus saying to them, the people in the temple that are doing things they shouldn't be, he says, "It is written, my house will be a house of prayer." Now, the thing I want to focus on is Jesus himself said, it's my house. My house will be a house of prayer. Talking about the church. But you have made it a den of robbers. The Greek word house there is oikos, O-I-K-O-S, means the house of God, the tabernacle, the family of God, the Christian church, what we are sitting in today. This is the house of God. He's referencing and quoting Isaiah 56:7, who says this, "Even those I will bring to my holy mountain, make them joyful in my house of prayer." There's joy in the house of the Lord. "Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all the peoples." David said this in Psalm 27:4, "One thing I have asked from the Lord, that I shall seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to meditate in his temple." And we could get into the idea we're the temple and of the Holy Ghost and things like that, but the idea that church is also a house. And so we're going to look at that idea today. Ushers, or some people have some forms. I'm being very formal today. That's a Pastor Jim joke. We're handing out not specifically forms, but some information that will lead to a form. And you're going to get one every couple, one every few people. We only have 50 total because our toner ink has ran out. And supposedly there's a shortage now of toner ink, and we've been waiting for it for a week. So I had to beg, borrow, and steal to print these. No, I was on like... That's right. Go to Staples. But anyway, so I got 50, and so hopefully we can make it. So you can follow along. Don't read it yet. Wait. Janika, wait. I'm just kidding. We'll go through it together. Everyone, of course. All those ones who want to pass the test first. Kristen, I know you're reading it ahead, wanted to get ahead. It's fine, we'll go through it together. If you are online with us right now, or if you don't get one and you're tech savvy, you can Google City Center Church and click on the tab Find My Fit. This is all in there online. Or if you want to know how to put in the URL, www.citycenterchurch.ca/Find My Fit, all one word, no spaces. And you can have that. Okay, so if you're more tech savvy and you don't have one, you can jump in there. We're going to walk through this. This is the analogy of a house. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk about 5 functions in the house your fanny might fit. 5 functions in the house your fanny might fit. Somebody look at your neighbor and say, your fanny fits. How many of you are like, I'm not saying that to the person beside me. I don't really know them. We're talking about fanny packs, right, everyone, right? Packs. Okay, just to make sure, if anyone's questioning, I'm wearing it right here. So we're just going to walk through this, and so we're going to talk about the 5 functions, like that verse said, God's fit, a place where we can function. Number 1 is observational. Observational, I wrote this, these are guests in the house. The responsibilities, you're going to see some responsibilities and benefits, and I want to say this. Each fit has the previous functions, responsibilities, and benefits where applicable. Okay? So you can kind of carry them down. I do want to say this, and I'll come back to it. Some of the benefits does not mean you have to be doing those in order to fit in that function. It means you have the ability to do those things, but you're not going to be able to do all the benefits. You'll see as we get further, you can't do them all. There's going to be certain things you're called to do, but it means you will be allowed to do them if the gifting's set up for that, okay? So some of these were applicable, we kind of walk through. So the first is observational. A guest in the house visits the church on occasion. We get people that just visit randomly, right? They're just observing. That's great. They watch online, but maybe they don't comment. Maybe they've never let us know they're there. They're observing. The benefits are they have a place to meet new people. They get to experience what CC Church is all about, and they can learn about how God can help with their lives. Did that link get onto the live stream? Anybody? Did you guys put that link in there? Perfect, thank you. I just wanted to make sure as I got ahead so if anyone could be joining in. Okay, so they are observing. Here's the parallel example of a house, and I referenced this, I think, last week. When you invite guests to come over to your house for supper, they don't have to make supper, they don't have to clean the dishes, they don't have to buy the food, they just get to come and eat, be filled, and have all the benefits of a good meal. They're there just kind of partaking, observing, getting to have and get fed of what's going on there. Guess what? That is a function in a church house. That is a thing. Because if you're never inviting people over, if we don't welcome this function and let people come in and observe, then our house will never grow. We'll never make new relationships. We'll never have new connections. So guess what? If you're an observer, if you're just online and you've been kind of hiding, you haven't commented yet, guess what? We are so glad you're here. We are so glad that you're coming a part of City Center Church and you're just observing today. Hey, that's awesome. We bless you for that. That is a function that your fanny can fit. All right. Good so far? Number 2, we're rolling through it. I got to catch up on some time. The second one is decorational. Decorational. This is where you start to have a bit more consistent grit. We're going to use that a bit, that analogy, but engagement is still limited. This is somebody who's now willing to attend City Center Church. It may look like this. Here's some responsibilities. Come to Sunday service at least once a month, or come to groups at least once a month. So we start seeing them once or twice a month consistently. Start to get to recognize them. Engagement in church is event-based. They'll volunteer for Easter. You'll volunteer for Christmas. There's some event-based things. I'll go deliver some flyers, right? They're starting to get engaged at that. The benefit is you get a place to develop gifts, get the benefit of the community, will begin to build relationships with those in the church. I just felt like I should say this. Why is he talking about this? Honestly, the reason why is because I'm hoping in this next season, not only will you be able to realize it and find yourself, but I'll be able to know where you think your fanny fits. Because we've had times in the past where we're like, hey, why isn't this person doing this? And then we realize they don't want their fanny to fit in an area, and we're wanting their fanny to fit in an area. But then also on the other side, there's some people saying, hey, I want to be able to do this, but we want to say, in order to do this, your fanny needs to fit like this. Does that make sense? Sort of? right? And so I'm wanting to communicate so we can be in agreement, so I can pray for you, so I can say I can help you get equipped in the area you feel like. And so this is where we're going today. Again, I said it's a little bit more churchy, but if you're new with us, hey, you can jump in and be observational, or maybe you're decorational. Here's the parallel example of decorational. The pieces in your house that are not necessary, but add to the beauty of the house. I.e. the lamp that you have that's, really nice, the pictures on the wall, the flowers in the porch, the throw rug on the floor, the candles in the bathroom, the paint on the walls. I had some pushback on the term decorational because they felt it like it was demeaning. But that is actually not how it's meant. Honestly, decorational and this function and the next function are really important to a church house or to a house. You know why? I have not seen any new person come in and before they come to our building, see them walking around the outside of the building, checking out, the foundation. Or they don't come in, man, there's sure some nice beams up there. Right? Those support structures, man, those are beautiful, What are they looking at? They're looking at, look at the chairs, look at the wood, right? They're looking at the decorational things within a house. That's what actually makes it unique and different from other houses. It puts the home touch on it. And so if you're at this stage and you're just coming a few times and you're jumping in, guess what? You're important because you add variety to our house. And so it's an important piece, and it's often what gets noticed is this stage and moving into the next stage. It's the decor that makes people stand up and take notice. We'll get into it, but Dennis and Verona, right, have been changing some decor, and I stood up and took notice. It makes it a little different. You go, that's different. That's the same as the people in the house. I put this, your fanny adds the fancy. You add the variety. We don't all want to be the same. And so maybe you've been fancy for a while. You feel like you've just been kind of doing this thing where you come a few times, you've got engaged a little bit, but you want to get a little bit more involved, looking to get a little more gritty. We go to the third stage, which is formal. Flip the page. Here's where you begin to have a specific role or purpose. This feels like a class at university. I probably will never do this again like this. We're going to make it a video series where people could watch and do this, but I thought with transition this is important. Have a specific role or purpose here. The grit becomes a consistent part of your life. Engagement is progressing. Here's some responsibilities. They call City Center Church their church home. We probably get a lot of people at the observational and decorational stage that call City Center Church their church home. They've been here a few times, and that's fine. They're like, I go to City Center Church. And you're like, I saw you 7 months ago, right? But this is the one they call home. Attend Sunday service or Tuesday service a minimum 2 times per month. We start to see you 3 to 4 times a month. Yay, even 5 times. A little more consistently. Start to contribute, serve, engage in the church consistently. Here's the one thing that's different from formal and kind of decorational. You're committed to be on a team schedule in one area of engagement or serving or contribution. We put out a schedule every 3 months, and you're saying, hey, I can work there. You begin to give money and time to support, start to join in with relational, spiritual accountability. You start to communicate what's going on in your life. You start to build a community around it where you're talking and sharing and saying, hey, what do you think of this? And start to build that community in there. Here's the parallel example. These are things in the house that without which the house would not function as it should and would struggle to fulfill its role. For instance, the light switches. You can have all the lights, but if there's not a switch there to turn them on, or if it's not working, you notice. Does the house still exist? Can you still use the house? Yes, but it makes a difference when the lights can go on and off. And if it's not working, you notice. The kitchen table and chairs. Can you still exist in your house without one? Yes. I mean, some cultures, they do completely. But in our culture, if you don't have a kitchen table and chairs, you notice it. And you go, we have to adjust, or this doesn't work, or you're eating from TV trays, and, there's different ways, but you notice that. Mirrors, core furniture, your bed, the toilet. Right? If that's missing, you notice. Can the house still exist? Yes, but it starts to have problems in what it's doing when the things like that are missing. So it's a little more formal role. That's the kind of parallel there. But again, I kind of called the last one decor, and this one's kind of design. This, again, is what makes a house unique from other houses. Do you have open concept? Do you have an island? Look at that farm sink. Man, they got their appliances there. They got their furniture arranged in this position. And so some of the things, oh, look at that toilet. Look at that, how amazing they did with that design, right? And so it's the things that are there that actually really make it unique and stick out, specific to City Center Church. And you could be that person. And so the formal design is what begins to make the house suited for its purpose and really what helps it begin to feel like home. This is what's, again, noticed and appreciated. Oftentimes, the design and the decor of what is inside of a house is what sets it apart and what gets noticed. We're going to get to the next two levels that really aren't noticed as much, but without them, the house does not exist. And so maybe you notice this, but the lower the function, or as we go down from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the grittier it gets. The higher the function in some of this, sometimes the prettier it is. But true growth happens in the grit when you get lower, and you're willing to jump into it. And so we move to this next one here, where this is predominantly where somebody calls City Center Church or a church their home. You may end up finding yourself here in the structural. The structural. This is where grit is at its greatest at this function. It's grown, matured, and advanced at this place. It's fully engaged at this function. Gathering times become just as much about contributing as consuming. So in the first two, especially moving to the three, these are about consuming often and a few contributing. But as you shift into structural, a lot of what you do ends up being dealing with contributing. You will get consuming, but you're contributing. And so here's the structural from the handout. Can be relied on to support what is happening. Sometimes the Bible refers to these as deacons. It kind of fits in there. But here's some of the responsibilities. Did I read the responsibilities and benefits of formal? Did I finish? I didn't do the benefits because I want to do it. Become a part of a family. We're jumping back to formal quickly because I wanted to say something here. Be part of engaged team meetings. That's what I'm calling it, kind of a level of people that are engaged. Sometimes we meet once a year. We were calling them leader meetings before, but I want to kind of move away from that and say engaged meetings. If you're engaged in the church, we meet once a year and just kind of give you the vision for what's coming up in the church. So we have some meetings like that. You can be involved at that level. If you're at a formal, you're serving a bit, and you say, hey, I want to know what's coming up at City Center Church. And you may get some mic opportunities in the formal level. You may get to give some testimonies. You may get to come up and pray. Okay, so now we're going to jump to structural. I wanted to say that. Here's some of the responsibilities. Be present at leadership meetings, which will be a little different, and training sessions. Tithing giving is a regular part of their practice. Regular church attendance on Sundays in groups. Believe they're called to City Center Church and the mission. Prioritize being the church and going. Producing others like them. Taking partial ownership. Language begins to reflect this buy-in. That's important. This is my church. Not the church. I'm part of the church. Our church. Yeah, I'm a part. I make this happen. And then there's further relational spiritual accountability. Instead of just talking about it, you start asking for input. Hey, what do you think? What about this? What's going on with this? And you'll see there's a big shift there in grit. This is where the grit is really grown up. And here's some benefits. You can oversee departments. Second level vision input. We have a vision team meeting, and we're trying to create some other levels of input so you guys have a say if you're structural. Voice at the table, events, planning. You move from being at the meetings to having a voice in the meetings. Some stage positions, announcement, offering, worship leader, prayer leader, guest speaker on a Sunday, can be a group leader able to speak on behalf of church on matters. You could do some counseling, do pastoral care. You're representing the church to others around. Be part of leader team meetings. Here's the parallel example. This is the framework for the house and what really helps make it function, i.e. the framing, the plumbing, the support beams, the subfloor, the wiring, the insulation. It's not pretty, but without it, the house collapses. You pull some framing out right now, if you pull some support beams out, it's not going to do that well. So the grit is greatest at this function, and I really think it's grown up and matured here. And I'll say this now, but I'll probably reference it because it's coming to my mind. If we wait for the grit to be growing up until we become foundational, that becomes problematic. and I'll tell you why. This is where it needs to really be growing up. Gathering times, I said, are as much about contributing as consuming. Because you always have the previous level's responsibilities and benefit, or grit and glitz, there's times if you're structural, guess what? You are going to get the glitz, so to speak. It's not like you don't, but oftentimes the structural people, what they're doing are not getting noticed or recognized. Right? Like, we don't know what's going on behind these walls. Well, Matt does. Brian probably does. But most of us don't know. But we find out when it doesn't work properly, like a few weeks ago when we had a backup in our washrooms. A structural thing was not operating like it should, and everyone took notice. You notice those things when the things that are structural, that are inherent to the working of the house, are not doing what they should. So if you are structural, though, because of your willingness to get in the grit, people notice, and when you step up into a position of glitz or say something up here, you are going to have more influence because you've paid the price doing stuff in the grit. So there is some glitz on that side. It's not always going to be behind the scenes. And I want to say this in terms of recognition. There may be sometimes some decorational and some formal, some decor stuff gets recognized more. But I want to say no matter what function you are in, whether it's observational, whether it's decoration, or whether it's formal, whether it's structural, as we'll get to, foundational, even if the recognition seems different, and at times it may be, and we'll try to recognize everyone, but the honor is not. Now, I know honor has recognition, but I want you to know if you are observational in our house, we honor you for that. We appreciate you in that function. If you are formal or if you're decorational in our house, there's honor for that position. Paul says, actually, the parts that are less known oftentimes and are smaller need the most honor. But we honor you for that role. If you feel like you're formal in this house, hey, there's honor for you there. God is honoring you for that. There's a reward and a blessing for that. If it's structural, there's honor there and foundation. There's honor for everyone. Even if sometimes the recognition, you're going, I'm not getting recognized, but guess what? There's an honor from God for what you do. And that's important. And there's an honor from us, and we will try to recognize in that, but know that you are honored for where you are fitting in the function, where your fanny fits in this body. All right. And so what somebody does is not less honorable. It might be less recognized at times, but it's not less honorable. And now we're getting to the real nitty-gritty. The last one, foundational. And there was a nice sound through the mic. The grit has been grown, developed, matured through the last few functions and is now ready to be used at this function. Engagement is second nature and part of this function. Contributing is prevalent in the house. This is not really where you want to be working out your character. You'll see what happens even in church leaders and different things. If they haven't worked out their character, they haven't grown up and matured in the grit, and you try to become foundational, it is going to be problematic. I'll say this here, I don't know where it is in my notes, because listen, if you're in a house and you decide a picture needs to move to a different place, or you take a picture off the wall, the house is not in jeopardy. But if you remove a support beam without any planning, the house is in jeopardy. If you remove part of the foundation or the foundation starts to crumble, then guess what? We have a problem. So if you want to be structural or foundational and you want to be up here and influential and in front of people, you want to have worked out the grit so that when if something happens, you can carry the pressure of what's going on. As we'll talk about here in the foundation, but let's read it. This is the people who believe their ministry or calling is part of the fivefold equipping team in a church. Often could be the elders in a church. Here's kind of the biggest difference in responsibility. They believe that their calling and city center churches are interconnected. So structural is this. You believe in what City Center Church is doing and you want to be a part of it. You want to be integral to it. But you believe your calling is still outside of the church. Business person, teacher, different things like that. That is amazing and that is fine. But then there's going to be some people like myself who say, my calling and purpose is to see City Center Church's calling and purpose come to fruition. They're one and the same. And so my goal as a lead pastor now is to be foundational and say, if City Center Church succeeds, I'm succeeding, we're integrated as one. That's kind of the biggest difference. And so in order for them to do ministry at this place of foundational, what God's called them to do, CCC must be able to do theirs. They will allow weight to be put on them to help City Center Church grow, prioritize the mission of the church. If something is happening at the church, we'll do everything they can to be there and be main leader in making it happen. Take ownership for what CCC is called to do. Equal part in problem solving, that's a big difference. It is no longer just the pastor's problem or the church's problem, it becomes their problem. It's my problem now, right? I was saying the biggest difference that I felt, people ask me, hey, did you feel anything different? And I think about a week after I realized I can't pass the buck to Pastor Jim anymore. Like second is nice because then you kind of get there, but if something's really heavy, you just say, well, it was Pastor Jim, That's me now. And so there's none of that. And so but it becomes we say, hey, this is ours. It's not just someone else that has to deal with it. The honest relational accountability, willing to be open and transparent with what's going on in their lives and submit to counsel in their lives. Here's the benefit. Key places of leadership, a part of the vision team, prominence on stage, preaching, announcements, offering, worship leading, gives you full access to what happens at the table. Your voice is elevated. And so here's the parallel example. This is what allows the house to be built and creates a stable base for everything the house will provide. I need to say this function is not for everyone. Nor should it be. I'm not saying everyone. I need to say this. These functions are not a way to rate people. It's a way to fit people. One is not better. It's where you fit and where God's calling you. That's where you want to find a fit. They're not better. They're different. And so if you're called to be, formal and doing God's working and you're plugged in, so these are ways to fit you. And so this function's not for anyone. I thought of this verse, Luke 14:28-30. Luke is talking here and he says, for which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who are watching it will begin to ridicule him, saying, the person began to build and was not able to finish. The point of this is saying, if you want to be part of a foundation or you're going to do something with a foundation, you want to count the cost first. Because we've seen it happen in the church world. There's a mega church right now that is going through a whole lot because of something that came out. Right? And so if you aren't having the right foundation when the winds come, when the storms come, when the weight's put on, if you don't have the right proper foundation, guess what? It's going to crumble. No foundation? That means if you don't, we'll get into what the foundation is, okay? So in any house, if there's not a proper foundation and something happens, it's going to crumble. So I encourage you, if you want to do even structural, not just foundational, count the cost first. There's a cost for it. I'm good with, you can come up to me, ask me after. Just let me get through this and we'll have some questions. I'm good, just after. What was that? Yeah, ask me after, okay? We are not all, made in God's image, but, all right. So Luke is letting us know that we need to count the cost before committing to move towards the foundational level. He's saying you can look silly if you want the foundation, but you don't count the cost. I went to Vegas many years ago, and there were some half-finished, hotels and buildings, and I was like, what's going on there? And someone said they ran out of money. Right? We have something in our mall right now. I won't say which place, but they started to build, and I know COVID came in, but it ended up not being able to put it in because they didn't have the full cost there. And so it kind of looks silly. You go, they didn't plan, or you notice and go, oh my goodness. And so that's why the more you become up front and in front of people, the more your non-gritty stuff, the area, your character flaws will be revealed. So anyways, you want to make sure you count the cost. And so how do you know if you're ready for foundational? You've been full of grit. Anyone full of grit? You've been fully engaged for a while. Here, quickly, I'm going to list this and then we're coming to a close. I know this has been so informational. Thank you for sticking with it. This goes against my preach nature so much. So much. But I think it's important so you know in this next season how to become a part of what City Center Church is and where we're going and where God's taking us. Here's the full engagement of grit, G-R-I-T. I've been talking about grit this whole time, and I've been saying, hey, you need to become engaged. This is what it looks like to be fully engaged in grit. G, giving. You're involved with giving in tithes, offerings, doorstep go. You have a life that is getting into giving. The next one is R, relating. You're willing to come in relationship with people on Sundays, on Tuesdays, in the community of church that God's building. You're willing to relate to the people, go out for coffee with them, start building community around it. This is the grit, giving, relating. The third one is inviting. Inviting. You are confident and you're inviting people into this community, not only to church, not only to groups, but guess what? Into your world. You're inviting your neighbors over to love on them. You're inviting people into your life and into what God's doing here so you can show them the love of Jesus. So you're willing to invite. And then the last thing, G is giving, relating, inviting. T is teaming, which means you are willing to serve on a team with somebody else. That's how you grow up in the grit. That's how you know you're engaged. Because you're giving, you're relating, you're inviting, and you're teaming. If you are doing that, you will be fully engaged, not just attending church, you are engaged in church. And so, why does he keep talking about grit and engaged and all this stuff? I'm glad you asked. Because we're talking about foundation right now. What is most of our foundations made out of? I hope I'm right with this, but they pour it, right? Cement or actually concrete. I thought it was cement, but it's concrete, which has parts of cement in it. But concrete, which has, ready, watch this, listen up, has 70% sand and gravel. What is sand and gravel? Grit. The foundation, which is concrete, has 70% sand and gravel, 70% grit. Because if there is not enough grit in your foundation, the foundation won't stick. 70% of foundational people are grit. Because if it's not there, there's nothing to adhere when the pressures come, when the storms come, when the weight comes, when the wind comes, because things are going to not go easy all the time. And if you haven't been growing up in the grit and you don't have the rocks and the sand to hold to the other stuff, the cement and other things, then guess what? It's going to start crumbling and it's not going to be able to withhold. But if you've been in the grit, then when the pressure comes, the circumstances comes, then your foundation will stick. Our foundation will stick. I just want to note this. Your fanny, when I was young, my fanny fit well right here. But now that I'm older, I think I have to fit it up here. So your fanny may fit in a different function in different seasons, and that's fine. We have some that have been foundational, and as Evangelist Brad is figuring out some things, there's some things he's doing that maybe don't fit him in a certain function he was before. Maybe you've been observational and you're saying, hey, I would like to fit somewhere else. Or maybe you've been formal and go, I want to be strong, but your function can fit. But this is the point. The more gritty your function, the more towards number 3, 4, and 5, I said this before, the more careful you need to be when adjusting. Listen, if you're observational, you're decorational, even somewhat formal, we honor you, we love that you're having here, but the adjustment, if the person misses a Sunday or something like that, we feel it, but it's not the same as if somebody who's structural, foundational just says, I'm out of here. Yeets in the night. Imagine walking into your house and all of a sudden like a whole frame is gone. Like everything else collapses around it. And so if you want to be that, that's why you got to count the cost. To move positions and functions, we need to have a plan. You can leave churches, but if you're structural or foundational, you want to hopefully, if you care about the house, have a plan so that you can support some things. If you want to put a beam or you want to do some different things or create a foundation, you can do it. That's why Pastor Jim and I worked at the transition at the foundational level for 5 years. Because switching and adjusting foundations is not an easy thing. And so we made sure all the proper supports were in place. We made sure all the things that needed to be done in order so the foundation could switch so that the house just keeps functioning like it should. Most transitions, the foundation gets shattered and they have to rebuild. All right. So the question I'm asking today is, where does your fanny fit? Fanny pack, right? Fanny pack. Where's your fanny pack fit? Some of you here, you need to be observational. Maybe you're at home and you haven't been commenting. You say, hey, I need to come in here and observe. Maybe that's where you need to fit. Maybe some people are decorational. You're adding beauty and variety to our church. You love that. But maybe you're saying, hey, I want to start being more formal or being part of the design. I want to get engaged and get involved. Some of you may need to adjust to become, structural. There's people here that should be a part of our engaged team and our leader team and maybe moving into our vision team. We're in a unique time of transition right now. And God is saying, who wants to be a part of this next season? We are set up. I'm telling you, City Center Church, I'm taking a step in faith. We are set up for growth. I've been hearing double in my spirit, and other people have been confirming it. And so in order to do that, we need some people who are more structural so that if we need to expand, we can build on some of that stuff and say, hey, we can build the house higher. We can do this a little bit over here. Maybe we add to our foundation and put an extension on the house. You know what I'm saying? We need some people to step up in this next season. So we need some people maybe doing more announcements, doing some offerings, doing some prayer times, leading groups. If you're wanting to know how to get there, we had the question in groups talking about the body, and we got into like the feet. Brad always says the feet are the evangelist. And then someone's like, well, what are the hands? And we're like, the eyes. And we're trying to like come up with what that means. And I'm like, I don't think that's the idea. I'm a hand. Yeah, this is what I do. So someone was saying, how do I know what I am? Or how do I find out? How do I get to formal or structural or foundational? How do I learn about the grit? This is what I encourage you to do. You ready? This is profound. Amazing. When someone asks you to do something, or when I get up and say, here's the ways you can engage or start joining a team, this is what you have to do. Pray for 30 minutes. Ask God. See if it fits with your calling. No. Say, Nathan, yes. That's it. I know I just felt the life get sucked out of the room. What do you mean? See, when I said yes to 4 and 5 nursery, I was not saying yes to being a lead pastor of City Center Church. But if I had that in my heart, I wouldn't have done 4 and 5 nursery because I was looking at, hey, that's not lead pastor. That doesn't look like it's tracking me. When I said yes to doing kids club for a summer and then said yes to helping start the school, and at 7:30 we were starting cleaning because we didn't have enough money to hire janitors, so we were cleaning the school before we started the school. Then I did school all day, and then I was in charge of kids club till 5. When I said yes to that, I didn't know it was lead pastor at City Center Church, but all I said was yes. When God told me a few years ago when we had a gap in teens, and he said, if you don't come and start doing teens, we're going to lose the next generation. I don't necessarily feel called to teens, but I said, God, if you say that, I'll say yes. Wherever I'm needed, I'll say yes. Listen, did every nuance fit what I thought I was called to do and go, oh, this is exactly, no, I just said yes at wherever God, my pastor, the people in my life asked me to. I said yes. And listen, guess what? I'm not broke. My family still loves God. They haven't, fallen over from exhaustion. They love church. They love it. I can't keep Deroy away from Tuesday nights. On Mondays, he's like, is it church tonight? No, it's Tuesday. Oh, just a bad day. Like, honestly, Tuesday, yes. So some of those worries and thoughts, and again, yes, we have to take care of ourselves and all that, but just be willing to say yes wherever you're asked. Here's why. Who remembers back in the day pre-power steering? I gotta wrap up here. In cars where there wasn't power steering. Anyone ever drive one of those? Have you ever tried to turn the wheel when the car was stopped? Even with power steering and the car is stopped, there's some resistance, right? But as soon as you start moving, all of a sudden, steering in a direction becomes so much easier. See, if we're sitting here, listen, somebody's going to catch this. If we're sitting here waiting for our perfect opportunity to say yes and start moving in a direction, it's really hard to steer you. But as soon as you say, yes, I'm going to get involved, and you start moving forward, then God says, okay, a light adjustment here, we're going to steer you here, and all of a sudden he can get you to where he wants, but it starts with being willing to get moving. That's good preaching. No, I just want to wait until my tires are pointing in the right direction. No, it's not going to happen like that. They're going to get pointed as you're willing to go and say yes. All right, here we go. Now what? Now what? 2 actions I'd like from you, 2 separate things, and then we're done. The first is, if you're watching online, hopefully you found it, City Center Church, Find My Fit. You can go to that tab. This is what we're talking about today. I want everyone here. If you're watching later, spread the word. I want everyone here of all types, leaders. You've been here 20, 30 years. I guess you couldn't have been here 30 years. You've been here 2 minutes. I want everyone to go to, the link is on the bottom of the page. You can even scan, see the little QR code? Some of you just melted when I talked about the QR code. You went, no, because they're everywhere in restaurants now. But you can scan there, or you search City Center Church, you go to Find My Fit. In the next week, not right now, in the next week, it comes to my email. I want everyone here to let me know, listen, where you think you would like to be at. Not where you are right now, be saying, I believe I would like to fit in this function of City Center Church. Why, Pastor Derek? Because then I can help equip you to get there. I'm going to pray into that. I'm going to ask God, okay, they see themselves, and then we can start working together. I don't know if I'll get back to everyone, probably not, but even if it's observational, you say, hey, I'm observing, that's where I find my fit. Hey, I'm decorational, I want to fit there. If you have some questions, maybe I can answer some of them, but I'd like everyone, I'd like 50, 60, 70, 80 of these to know, because then it helps me when I go, hey, who can I bring up on stage? Then they understand what the responsibility is, but then also I know that's where you want to be. Does that make sense? So then I can find out where you want to fit. So in the next week or so, go to the webpage. It has all the information there. Pray about it. Ask God about it. Say, God, where do I want to fit in this next season? And then just send me fill out the form, and it'll send a quick email. That's the first thing. Who can do that for me? Put up your hand. Oh, I saw that person. You can do it. No, I'm just kidding. Find out, hey, if it's observational, that's fine. I just want to come a few times. That's great. Second thing is, we talked about engaging and getting in the grit and serving on a team. We have some areas of engagement that you can say yes to today. We need some people helping getting engaged in some of our service areas. So here they are. And if you're online, you can go to the same City Center Church website, and right beside Find My Fit is a tab that says Join a Team. If you click on that, if you're tech savvy, you can go there. This is where you can join a team from. But here's the area of service we have, engagement contribution we have right now that I'd like people to sign up for today. We got iPads that are ready to sit there, and you cannot leave. No, I'm just kidding. You can leave. But if you want to sign up and say, hey, I want to become engaged. So here's food service. We get food once a month. We used to have it every week. We have it a bit more. We have a big meal coming up on Easter. So we need people to come in who can do the kitchen. We are now going to create ones who are there to be scheduled to serve the food and kind of handle that, and then clean up after. We've got some extra spots. We're looking for other events that are around food. If you're like, hey, I like food, that's my calling, I can get involved with that. We got food service. We got kids and youth ministry. I want to point out those require a criminal record check, so if you aren't that person that can pass that or get it cleared, that you might want to do another area. Just saying, because it's the vulnerable sector. All right? And so kids ministry, if you want to teach and work with kids, this is where I cut my teeth to be doing what I'm doing today in 4 and 5 and kids and in youth. If you want to preach on this stage, get in the nurseries and the kids ministry and the youth ministry. Boy, that one's not fun, is it? I spent years in there before I ever hit a stage. I didn't even want to hit a stage. That's partially why. That's where you learn a lot. Media, sound. Fridays, youth is Fridays at 7:16. Media, sound, visual, camera, live stream, that whole thing there. They're doing all this stuff for today and all the sound. If that's you, if you have kind of any inkling for that, we can train that pretty good. If you're willing to, we can train some of that. Music, singers, instrumentalists, songwriters, people on stage. This one, you need some abilities. We can't train it. We would like to at some point, but right now we don't have the ability. So if you come and you're like, I'd like to sing, and you're like, oh, you know, like, and so we might be able to do that. Pastor Jim is not going to be volunteering for that. We don't have enough time to get him there. So this one requires a bit more. Ushers, they manage flow. You see the one that comes and brings the table and makes sure everything does that. We have ministry time and different things like that. I guess that could fit kind of cloth ministry. I didn't put that in, but you know, we have my mom comes and hands out Kleenexes and covers people, and so things like that. Just the order and the flow of the service. As you saw, if you have someone talking in the service, guess what? That doesn't just disappear. Somebody goes and deals with it to keep the flow going in the house. And so they do some of that. And there's some simple positions like even just bringing offering envelopes or the buckets and things like that. So that's a good place if you're unsure, you're nervous, you're like, hey, I can do some ushering. I can jump in the kitchen. It's not in front of people. Here's a new one, hospitality. We really haven't had this, but we're moving into this, the welcome booth. We want to have parking lot welcomers. We're going to have guest parking spots for anyone new. They're going to get prime parking. And we want to greet them in the parking lot. I have read this, that within 10 minutes of somebody visiting a church, they've already decided if they're ever coming back or not. Before they heard the music, before they heard the preaching. Now, they may not, they may make more decisions based on the preaching and stuff of whether they're going to stay. But within 10 minutes, the parking lot and the greeting at the door, that's where they've already decided. Guess what? You matter way more than I do to what happens in growing this church. Way more, because, I said I want to actually be in the parking lot. I thought that would be fun. I meet them in the parking lot, and then they find out that I'm on the stage preaching. But even if somebody's got mobility issues, we can help them in. Maybe there's a single parent, they're trying to juggle kids. We can do that. We're going to get some people with Ask Us badges, and what you're going to do is you're just going to say, hey, I can wear that. And when people come into the church that are new, we say, hey, you ask anyone who's wearing one of those. They're here to help you out, to make it comfortable, to help you with anything, to sit with you. We want to have a welcoming church. The distance from that door to this seat is quite massive. So we need you to be a part of that. And so that's the hospitality, answer questions, greet and meet, follow up. We have a whole way of following up with people that we need people to be able to do it properly with a texting and just following up. And so outreach, Thursday night barbecues. Sometimes they just have coffee in the winter and they bring people in for some hot dogs. Prison ministry, I know that's just coming back and things like that. Doorstep go events. I know right now you, like me, might be wishing doorstep would go away because mine's still sitting there needing to be delivered. But every time I go, oh God, I just can't get away from it, and I think this is life to our community. We need more people to help carry that. And then the last thing is design. Dennis and Verona, as you can see, have been doing some stuff. And so if you like decoration, you have an eye for that and would like to help them, whether it be specific events or just when they're doing it, we can add you to that team. And we have a big conference coming up. There's going to be a lot around there. I hope that's okay because I didn't even ask you, but there we go. So City Center Church / join a team. You can go online right now, or we've got some leaders who are going to grab iPads, 4 or 5 iPads, and today you can sign up. You guys can go, you'll get your iPads. We're going to ask you if you want. You say, hey, I want to be engaged. I want to learn more about this. They're going to have the page. You can sign up right there, submit it, and we can get you. Because I know what happens. We leave the church, and then you kind of forget about it. It's like high-pressure sales. It's not meant to be. We've got ring pops for whoever wants to. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, that would be applicable, right? Signing up to get engaged. So the two things you need to remember, find my fit on the website. Let me know in the next week or so where you think, unless it's taking you or contending with it, then just let me know. And then right now we have some people at the back who are going to be taking in registrations as we go into this next phase. If you're watching, do it online. We'd love to have you if you miss it. And here's the last thing. If you're new with us and you go, I'm not ready to engage at all. This is crazy for me. We have a place for you to jump in. It's called Alpha Class. This is where it finds out the base levels of kind of what we believe, our life and faith. What I read it here. If you're new to the church, faith, Christianity, or you want to grow some of that teaching, this is a great place to begin to explore, learn, and ask questions about all of this in a friendly, open, and informal environment. So if you're interested in taking a class, it starts April 19th at 7:15 in this building. Matt's going to be doing it. We're not sure if he'll be there for the first one. Brad's going to cover if he is away, and then he's doing the rest. It's going to run till pretty much the end of June. It's about 10 sessions, and you'll come out knowing a lot about what we're doing here. And so there's forms at the back. Is there anyone who's interested in Alpha right now? Put up your hand, and Matt can maybe make sure. Is anyone saying, hey, I'd like to take that Alpha class? And Matt can kind of look. Okay, there's one right there, Matt. Okay, and one right there. Find Matt. Matt, stand up. Find Matt after. Find Matt after, and the forms are just sitting in the welcome booth, Matt, and he'll get you a form, and you can meet him because he's the one going to be doing it. If you have any friends or anything else, bring them to this class. That's a way you can get engaged. Then you can find out if you really want to be a part of City Center Church and move from observational to other things. All right, this is the last thing I'm saying. Listen up. I wore the fanny pack the whole time. Your fanny, you and your fanny fit here at City Center Church. Whether observational, decorational, formal, structural, or foundational, we are a part of that. I have one last thing before you go over there, is we still have some flyers to deliver for invites for this Sunday. Talk about being able to get engaged. Where are the rest of our flyers we need delivered? We had some people do it at the beginning. We've got maps of 80 to 100 houses where you're just going to drop a flyer into the mailbox. The map is written out really clearly, and we just need some people to take about 30 to 45 minutes. We want our community coming here on Sunday because we want to bless them. We want to tell them about the resurrection and Easter. So if you're willing and having some time to deliver some flyers, you don't have to say anything at the door. It's different than doorstep. It's not as much, If you're willing to do that, can you put up your hand? Maury's got some flyers there. Hugh's going to do one. I'll do one this one. We got Danielle here. Maury, come on up. We got 2 people here. How many do we have left, Maury? 9. You got some? Oh, yeah, because did you get the other, did we ever get toner ink in? Okay. So we got about 9 there. I know we'll do some on Tuesdays if there's people to flyer. We'll hand them out Tuesdays. I can do one in a bit. But if there's anybody else that's willing to do it, it's pretty easy. All right. That was a different service. Thank you for your attention. I know it's not your typical Sunday. I would like to be throwing out ring pops and cheeseburgers or teaching more about the Word. We are going to, I know this has been a lot of information over the last 3 weeks, so I know the next time I minister here in a few weeks, it's going to be more uplifting. I've really been feeling like we need some uplift even coming out of COVID. We had an MNC meeting where somebody was talking on this idea of loneliness and just where people are at. So I believe I'm going to speak into that and minister life into that. And we're just going to kind of refocus on God and the presence of God and really go after that. So come expecting next week Brad's ministering. Just to let you know, all the tables are going to be set up for church. That's different even for us. So when you come, you'll be sitting at a table for church. There we go. It'll be like the first supper, not the last supper. I don't know. So just so you're ready for that, Brad's going to be ministering. Pastor Jim's going to be ministering 2 weeks from now, and then we'll go from there. It's going to be a great time. May 8th, Mother's Day. Nominate your mom. Go to City Center Church. Find the Mom's Day tab. Nominate a lady in your life, your neighbor, somebody you like, somebody you honor, somebody you want to bless. Nominate them. Now we give them a flower, and they have a chance to win a $150 gift basket. There is so much going on right now at church. If you have an invite, if you got somebody you want to invite to Sunday service, Maury's got some invites. That's more like your friends, people at work. If you think someone would like it, you want to take them somewhere. You can stick up your hand now if you go, hey, I need a few invites. Sydney has some. We got one here. You can say, hey, I'd like to invite some people. Okay, we've got the iPad people at the back. Pierre has some here. You can get them after Pierre. iPad people there. If you want to engage and you're ready to serve at City Center Church or engage and you say, hey, I'm willing to do it, they are ready to meet you at the back. Go say hi to them. If you have any questions, they can answer. I'll be milling about. I'll answer them. I'm going to pray and we're going to be done. Father God, we just thank you for what you're doing today. Where you're taking City Center Church, Father God. We thank you, Jesus, you are Lord in this place. That no matter as we deal with structures and different systems and different things like this, Father God, it really comes down to you, your church, your house, Jesus, that we want you to build your church, build your house, Father God, so that we can impact more people for you. So, Father God, we thank you for your presence. We thank you. I pray a blessing on everyone here and their children and their children's children. Father God, peace and favor and grace over everyone at the sound of my voice. I speak healing in the name of Jesus. I speak provision and prosperity. I speak hope into the people at the sound of my voice. We thank you for the season ahead, God. We are so expecting for it. In Jesus' name, amen. Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Next Sunday, 11:30. If you volunteered already, we've texted you. If you want to volunteer, just show up at 6 or 11:30, 11:15 next Sunday, and we'll be involved. God bless you. See you Tuesday.